If you only had 48 hours in Regina, Saskatchewan, and wanted to search for ghosts for a possible paranormal experience, there are at least 5 places I tell you to check out. In tonight's episode, I'll share with you the 5 haunted locations that you can visit here in Regina. And some of these tend to be on our ghost tours, and some of them aren't, but you can use this list in case you can't make it to one. Good evening, and welcome back to Paraghoul Paranormal Discoveries from the Dark. I'm your host, K.D. Culpa, a horror author and paranormal researcher based in Regina, Saskatchewan. Each week on the podcast, we dive into the shadows of Saskatchewan's past and even go beyond, uncovering dark history, mysteries, urban legends, and sometimes we even get to some monsters. If you're one of the listeners that comes back each week but aren't yet subscribed, please hit that follow button and share it with someone who loves the weird and wonderful. I've got more big guests and haunted deep dives coming your way, so join me now as we explore the unknown and bring life to the ghosts and monsters hiding in the dark. Now tonight, we are returning to another local Saskatchewan haunt, where we explore the haunted corners of Saskatchewan, from ghostly apparitions in historic buildings to unexplained phenomena in small towns. Let's delve into the dark history and paranormal activity that lurk in our backyard. In this episode, I thought I'd take you through my top 5 recommendations for visitors to Regina to check out, or even for us locals, because sometimes it's fun to go looking for ghosts. Now, I love all of these locations, and these are the ones I do tend to recommend to those of you in my DMs asking. Note, some of these are for adults only, so ages 19 and over, because they do serve alcohol inside of the buildings. So if you are under that age, then just make sure you double check that whether you can get in before you try to enter. All right, so let's get started with number 5. Now, the Casino Regina is one of my favorite buildings here in Regina. I mean, I do have a lot of them. It was originally built as the third railway station in Regina when the Canadian Pacific Railway and the Canadian Northern Railways decided to combine their passenger facilities here in the Queen City. Like many buildings here in Regina, it was built of Tyndall stone and officially opened in 1913. The 3-story building served as the primary point of access to the city, attracting visitors, the military, and even royalty. It grew so quickly that it needed multiple expansions, one in 1921, another in 1927, and finally a third in 1931. This added a waiting room, luggage storage, and more services to Union Station as Regina grew in popularity as a place to visit and live. However, as we all know, railway travel didn't last forever. After personal vehicles became popular and less people required travel by train, the last passenger train left Regina's Union Station in 1990. For a while, it was used as a storage unit, as it was approved to become a casino by 1994, and then finally opened in 1996 after extensive renovations. Now, there are a few ghost stories associated with the building, but the most active area is said to be the basement. Now, down there, you can still find the prisoner cells, which were used to hold prisoners who were being transported as they couldn't be left on the trains, which makes sense. Now, unfortunately, the public is no longer allowed in the basement. However, many staff have reported how creepy it is down there, including seeing doors that were once locked open on their own. Footsteps and voices have also been heard, leading some to believe that a prisoner once locked in one of the cells might still be lingering. Now, that isn't to say you might not have your own paranormal experience while visiting the main gaming halls of the casino. There have been claims of a woman seen walking on the upper floors, possibly a past traveler or employee still wandering around. I love how these old buildings all seem to have that female ghost on the upper floor. If you've been listening to my podcast for a while, then you will have noticed the pattern too. It makes you wonder what makes the top floor of old buildings so attractive to female ghosts. And usually they're wearing heels. That's another kind of common theme. Now, the Casino Regina is one of those locations that does not allow minors. So if you want to check it out, then make sure you are at least 19 years old. All right, now number 4 on my list is that of one of Regina's brew pubs, where you can find live music, beer, and good food. Of course, this does mean that it's another 19 and over venue, so you must be an adult to enter. However, this building is where you might get to meet one of my favorite Regina ghosts, Mr. James Strathy. Now, James was the manager of the building when it was first built, back when it was a wholesale grocery warehouse. The area where it was built was previously a residential zone, with the only building on the corner of Dewdney and Cornwall being a Chinese laundry known as Mac Lung Laundry, until the F4 tornado ripped through the center of Regina in 1912, which is when the area was utterly destroyed, with buildings torn to pieces. From that destruction, the city rebuilt, deciding that the once residential area would be rezoned as a warehouse district, which is what we see today. Naturally, given that a large tornado ripped through the area, ending with at least 28 lives lost in 1912 from that horrible evening, it seems only expected for some ghosts to be wandering around the area. And after all that emotion and natural energy tearing through, it's no wonder that Dewdney Avenue is a bit of a hotspot for paranormal activity. However, James didn't come until after 1912, as the Campbell, Wilson, and Strathy building was built after the tornado and opened in 1914. James was very proud to be the building's manager and quickly became a prominent businessman in Regina. Everything was going well. He was well known in the business community and was helping expand the grocery wholesale business to other Saskatchewan communities. Now, unfortunately, that would all change for him in 1933 when James would suffer a head injury in a car accident while traveling home from Calgary. This unfortunate accident would be the start of his spiral out of the business community, and he would eventually be found shot in a field 6 miles north of Regina. Although the details of the death were never announced, the coroner and police stopped the investigation quickly, like within 24 hours, leaving everyone to wonder what had happened. Had James, upset about his spiral out of the business community and no longer able to make sound business decisions, become depressed and felt there was no point in going on living? Or had the business partners who wanted him out of the grocery wholesale business and wanted someone younger and more eager to take over have something to do with it? We may never know, but that makes some wonder whether James is still wandering the building, particularly in the Bushwhacker Brew Pub, given that this was the location of his office when he managed the building. Staff have reported hearing someone calling their name, things being moved without anyone around, and seeing a man in older period clothing walking around. In the basement, there is also a coal chute and an old coal pile near the boilers. Although the boilers have been updated and the coal chutes have been sealed, one staff member had pieces of coal thrown at them from the pile while they were inspecting the new boiler. These aren't the only experiences in the building, and some do happen on other floors, as I've been told by people that used to live in the residential floors. But all experiences, however, point to someone watching over the building, making sure employees are working and staying on task, and that no one is harming the business or the building. Now, the College Avenue campus comes in at number 3 for me, as it's a publicly accessible building with a rich history and a few different ghosts. The building itself was originally built in 1912 as a high school for the Methodist Church. It grew quickly, requiring the addition of the tower and a girls' dormitory wing in 1916, with plans to add an east wing for boys, but those plans were never realized. Over time, the school evolved, taking on many different functions and enduring some of its own tragedies. The first was in 1920, when a typhoid outbreak at the school was caused by contaminated milk in the cafeteria. This led to 79 people falling ill, including students, teachers, and even staff. And the girls' dormitories turned into an emergency infirmary to care for those who had fallen ill. Now, unfortunately, even with the efforts of the doctors and nurses to save everyone that they could, 9 people did pass away from this outbreak. 8 students and 1 professor. The professor, Roy Renwick, passed away on Christmas morning, with his funeral taking place within the lecture hall of the college building. And the final student died on New Year's Eve before the clock struck midnight and the new year began. So, quite an awful way to end the year. Now, you can only find the Professor Roy Renwick's body in the Regina Cemetery, as the students were allowed to be taken back home to be buried with their families. Roy was from southern Ontario, and given how difficult it was to travel in the middle of winter on the prairies in the 1920s, it was decided to be too difficult to take his body home, so he was laid to rest here. As the stories say, a shy shadow figure has been seen in the building's basement. He is tall and is said to stay in the background, not wanting to draw too much attention to himself. This is thought to be the ghost of Roy Renwick, staying behind to watch over the children that died in the building, continuing to care for the students that did not survive. And there's at least one story about a young girl who is also seen and heard in the basement and the stairwell, although that is another story. Before we get into the top 2 haunted places I recommend checking out in Regina, if you are looking for a fun, potentially paranormal experience, I want to make sure you are aware of something. So in 2025, we started the YQR Haunts Ghost Tour of Regina experience. It was a 3-hour bus tour that took attendees to 4 of the most haunted locations in Regina, including stops for history and ghost stories, and a chance to take pictures yourself. In fact, a couple of our attendees even managed to take some photos with some unusual figures inside of them, which was very exciting. Now, given how much fun it was in 2025, we are expanding the tours in 2026. We will have walking tours over the summer months, a bus tour in the fall leading up to Halloween, and we will end with a final VIP dining experience the week before Halloween. It's going to be another amazing year, and we have new locations and new experiences coming your way. If you want to be notified when tickets go on sale, then make sure you head over to my website at kdkulpa.com to sign up for the waiting list, because tickets will go fast, so you don't want to miss this. Okay, so let's get into number 2 on my list, which is a more recent addition. I am so glad I found it, and I'm very grateful to one of the building's owners. So let's talk about the Regina German Club. Although I haven't found any deaths inside the building, it has been a popular hotspot for many years, leading you to wonder whether some ghosts just like to visit or check in on their favorite building from time to time. If you don't know what the Regina German Club is, it's a local clubhouse that celebrates German culture. It was formed in 1955 and moved to its current location in 1968. But you don't have to be German to become a member. They host private and public events and make fantastic pretzels. They are located near downtown Regina on St. John Street. Now, from what I could tell in my research, the area was primarily a residential area with a commercial building on the actual site of the current building. Around 1914, it looks like, is when it was built. However, the area was known as Germantown for a period. It was also home to a high number of Ukrainians, given the Ukrainian National Federation Auditorium that is next door. Now, from what I could tell, and from what the current owners have been able to find, there are no deaths or tragedies on the site, so it's unknown for sure where the paranormal activity comes from. However, it does tend to be friendly, or at least not deliberately scary, so making the owners wonder whether it's a former owner or a member of the group just keeping tabs on the German club. The basement bathroom is said to have a presence, with many people seeing someone enter, only to follow them in and find it empty. My favorite story comes from a time when they actually had video footage of activity. There were staff around to witness it as well, but the video footage shows the tablecloth in the back area of the basement suddenly flying up, as if someone was trying to get their attention. Other activity includes lights turning on and off, voices heard, and footsteps. They've even had investigators in the building who apparently had captured some EVPs of voices and some other activity. All right, so I'm sure if you've been listening for a while, or maybe you've come on the YQR Haunts Ghost Tour with us, then you'll know what my number one recommendation is to check out here in Regina. And that is, of course, the Government House. The staff at the Government House welcome their ghosts, especially since they seem to like to help out around the place. Although sometimes there can be what we would consider creepy activity, like dolls moving in the children's nursery or a music box that likes to play when no one is in the room, only to turn off as soon as someone gets close. Like, come on, that's a little creepy. However, other activity of the museum includes knocks, footsteps, and even voices. Now, if you don't know, the Government House was built in 1891 as the residence for the Lieutenant Governor for what was then known as the Northwest Territories. So this was previous to Saskatchewan being a province. The building changed hands a few times over the years after the Lieutenant Governor gave up the residence during the Great Depression in the 1940s. At that time, they also auctioned off all the furniture. So the antique furniture that's currently in the building is actually not original to the house. And really, this is where I think some of the ghosts actually come from. Imagine all of that furniture coming in from unknown pasts, unknown owners. Kind of makes you wonder how many of them came with ghosts. However, the staff believes that the one person who died in the house, Chun Li, the chef for the lieutenant governor, is the main trickster ghost. Some say you can sometimes hear his flip-flops from the first bedroom at the top of the stairs, as his room and hall would have been just on the other side of the wall in the portion of the house that is not open to the public. Now, my favorite story of Chun Li is his view about Halloween and people coming to the house. Apparently, one night when children had come to the door for trick-or-treating, instead of candy, they got a bucket of dirty dishwater dumped on them by Chun Li. He liked his space and didn't like too many guests in the house, I guess. And especially, I don't think he liked Halloween, which is funny that we went there a lot for Halloween. Now, my husband and I have one personal experience from visiting the house as well. We believe Chun Li, or at least one of the ghosts, wanted to make itself known by knocking on the wall behind my husband while he was alone, filming some B-roll video on the stairs. He hasn't been a big fan of the experiences he tends to get while out filming with me, but so far he keeps coming, so we're still capturing some stuff. And there you have it. Those are my top 5 locations I recommend when people ask me where they can experience some paranormal activity here in Regina. Which location do you think should have made it on the list? Now, before I sign off, if you're interested in local paranormal history, I've put together a free YQR Haunts guide that you can download from my site. It includes more information on many of the locations discussed today, along with a few extras that we didn't get to talk about. And for anyone who likes being in the inner circle, this will also add you to my email list, where I share things first, like book releases, events that I'm speaking at, and first access to the ghost tour tickets before they go public each year. I'll leave a link to it in the description in case you want to check it out. And before you go, I just want to thank you for being here. Every listen, every share, every bit of support helps me take this podcast further. Interviewing bigger names in the horror and paranormal world, traveling to haunted places, and creating more behind-the-scenes content just for you. So if you haven't already, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. I'll do my part to try and make this show something creepy and fun and special, and I just ask that you do your part as well. Stay tuned for more episodes where we uncover more secrets, unravel more mysteries, and delve deeper into the shadows. This is Katie Culpa, signing off. Until next time, my ghouls.